Dr. Seuss once said, "Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better." I first heard that quote when I watched the Lorax for the first time a couple years ago, and it just really stuck with me. Nothing will actually get better unless you change it. There was a time when so many things were impossible until one average person decided they were going to make it possible. Hi, my name is Carol Gonzalez, and my topic is environmental studies. So at the beginning of the year, I had originally decided that my topic was going to be marine biology. But after a bunch of interviews and research assessments, I came to the conclusion that I didn't really like the science part of it, and I liked more of like the environmental, like the helping part of it. And I'll go into more detail about that and how like my decision came. But a little about me. I am very into music. I play the guitar, bass, piano, drums. I sing. I mainly play the guitar though. But yeah, I'm like in a band, and those people up there are some of like the biggest inspirations to me, and like they really just, they're like great. Anyway, but also I'm really into art. I like to draw, I like to paint, things like that. Some clubs I'm in NHS, NHS, and NHS. I'm also bilingual. I was born in Colombia, and I came here when I was 2. And then yeah, and I work at Smoothie King. So my mission statement is to learn in depth about my passion, which is environmental science, and I want to apply my newfound knowledge to help the conservation of the earth. So first of all, I want to talk about how environmental science and environmental studies are totally different things. People hear environmental and then they hear the S and they think science and they think studies is just like a synonym, but it's really not. Environmental science is looking at environmental problems through the eyes of like a chemist or a biologist or a physicist. So they look at the more chemical and biological, physical aspects of it. And then environmental studies has to do with the effects and the interaction with people. So more of like the laws and how it affects political, social, and economical aspects. So an example is an oil spill. An environmental person who's into like environmental science would look at that through the chemical, biological, physical aspects. So that they would think, how did this happen? Where did it happen? How is this going to affect the quality of the water? How is this going to affect the fish? And then a person who's into environmental studies would do the social, economic, and political aspects, which would be what laws are broken in the oil spill? How can we help this never happen again? How can we like, clean it up? So the first person I went on an interview with was Dr. Elizabeth Griffiths, and she's a professor at University of Texas at Arlington. And at the time I wanted to be still a marine biologist, and so I thought oceanography was the same thing, but it's really not. It's so different. Oceanography is just the study of the ocean as a whole, and then marine biology is just the biological side of it. And usually if someone's an oceanographer, they specify, and so she did, and she does like the chemistry of like the rocks at the bottom of the ocean. And so she studies how like climate change affected the rocks like 1 million years ago or something. It's crazy. The next person I had an interview with was Amy Witt. She is a marine consultant. She actually used to work for like this big company who did marine consulting and stuff. And she decided she wanted to kind of like be her own boss, I guess. So she left that job and decided to make a company, and it's called Azurka. And she's the CEO and like head marine biologist. And it's really cool. She's so passionate about it. It's awesome. She really taught me the importance of like writing, because you have to write so many like proposals and grants and stuff, which I never really thought about when I was thinking about this. The next woman is Laura Midlars. She's a professor at the University of Texas at Arlington. She's also a marine biologist with a specialty in coral, which is really cool. She was the main person who helped me realize that I didn't really want to do marine biology. She, like we went down to her lab and it was really cool and stuff, but it was super science-based, and I thought I liked science until like I got there, and it was just it's a lot. So. The next person is Molly Kinson. She is actually a former ISN student, and she graduated from Frisco High. She is the environmental education coordinator for the city of Frisco. So she's the one who does like Rufus the dog, and she does all these like things with Frisco ISD, and she does all the like the green teams in the elementary schools and stuff, and that's all her. And she also, the thing that's really cool is she also does the website for like the kids and stuff. So she also has to do like graphic design and things like that, which is really, really cool because I really like art too. So. And then my last person I interviewed was Jeremy Starrett, which is actually Molly Kinson's boss, and so she helped me set up that interview. He's the environmental manager for the city of Frisco, so he deals with any like solid waste that leaves Frisco, whether it's food or like trash or anything like that. He was actually in the Peace Corps, and then he decided in the Peace Corps he had to deal with desertification, and he realized that he really liked the environment. He really wanted to help it, and so yeah. So some skills required to do environmental systems and environmental consulting, which is kind of what I want to do, is a really strong understanding of science, just a very broad understanding of science too. So like you have to have some knowledge in chemistry and biology and physics, but it doesn't have to, you just have to have knowledge, you don't have to be really in depth about it. And then as I mentioned before, a solid writing foundation, you really have to be able to write lab write-ups and just all these cool writings. And then a passion for the environment, which I really think could be applicable to any job. You just really have to have a passion for what you're doing. So some important things to remember when thinking about environmental systems is sustainability, and that's like the biggest thing. Sustainability is the ability of the Earth's natural system and human cultural systems and economy to survive indefinitely. So we really want a very like big and good sustainability. Sustainability is really good, and that's what we're like aiming for. And biodiversity is another thing that you really have to keep in mind, which is the variety of different types of life found on Earth. So we want to have a bunch of different like types of species and plants and things like that. And there's 4 principles of sustainability, like 4 principles to obtain sustainability, which are reliance on solar energy. So we're going to try to stay away from fossil fuels and oil and kind of go towards the solar side because it's so much better for the Earth and like it's a lot cheaper and things. Another thing is biodiversity. So that's why biodiversity is so important, because the more, again, like diverse we have, the more different types of plants and species, like the better. The third thing is nutrient cycles. So like that would be phosphorus cycle, water cycle, sulfur cycle, things like that. Once they are all like interconnected and stuff, that's really good because we want everything to just be like interconnected in the world. And then the last thing is population growth. So we don't want there to be like overpopulation where like the Earth can't like sustain us, and then we don't want like underpopulation where there's like not enough people or plants or animals or anything like that. So for my original work, something that's really, really, really a big deal to me is I just really don't, I get so frustrated when people use like plastic water bottles or styrofoam cups, because they really don't know how terrible it is for the environment. Styrofoam cups and plastic cups take 500, like the minimum they take to decompose is 500 years, and then they could like never really decompose. It's terrible. So as I mentioned before, I work at Smoothie King, and we give our smoothies in like styrofoam cups, which is terrible. So I've really been talking to like my manager and like the owner of our franchise, and I was talking to them why they use styrofoam cups, and all of them said because it's so much cheaper and it's so much easier to use. And so for my original works, I want to research an alternative to that and kind of propose it to not only the people at Smoothie King, but like local little restaurants, so they can start getting away from the styrofoam and the plastic cups and stuff, because it's really terrible. And I've actually already done some research. I didn't put it up here, but there's these cornstarch. It's not plastic, but it looks like plastic. So these cornstarch like plastic cups that are decomposable, so they're really good. So they wouldn't go to landfills or anything like that. They just decompose, which is great. And another thing I want to do in my original works is help educate the public, because I'm sure if like everybody knew how terrible styrofoam and plastic really was, I'm sure no one would really use them. So I want to somehow make like we have pamphlets at Smoothie Kings with like all these nutritional facts about like a bunch of things we sell there. So I want to make a pamphlet and like give it out to people, set it out on the table so people can read how terrible plastic and styrofoam really is. And so, yeah, thank you.